Welcome to this episode of All Things Disciplined Agile. I'm Joshua Barnes, and I am joined by Aldo Rall. And our topic for today is what will you learn in the Project Decisions with DA Masterclass? And this is something that Aldo and I introduced a couple of weeks ago. We talked about, can you learn the benefit of Disciplined Agile in a half a day? Right. And so that was a bit of a challenge that was thrown down to us. There's, lots of good things that come out of going through maybe more extensive training, but not everybody's ready to go through maybe a 2-day certification course or just, some of the other variants that are out there as far as to start getting yourself upskilled with respect to Disciplined Agile. So what we've done is we've created a master class. And one of the things that I think makes this such a unique offering is that it is a blended learning approach, right? So yeah, you're a project professional, you're a project manager, a program manager, an operational manager, somebody in a leadership position, and you're wondering, well, where do I go with respect to Agile, right? There's so many unanswered questions, so much apprehension that we come across, so many things that I think there's myths and, again, misconceptions that are out there. So what would you learn in a half day as a project professional? So blended learning, right? We have a learning management platform, and part of what we do within this masterclass is we make available some on-demand introductory content as far as what is DA, how does DA compare to other things in the marketplace, what types of roles do we see on disciplined agile delivery teams, and so forth. Now, there's a full introductory on-demand course that you get included within this. However, there are certain portions of that we really would need you as an attendee to be prepared to get into the actual live portion of the workshop. Aldo, anything I've left out so far?
No, you've got the gist of that. It is preparing, or equipping you up front with some core basics, so that when we talk about it in the last class, that you actually understand what it means, and that you can then hit the road running, as to speak, and not go, what's that again? So it helps you to prepare so that we have the right language, or understanding of what we mean when we say things in class.
Yeah, and as part of this blended learning approach, if you don't go through the entire introductory course ahead of time, you do go through the parts of it that we need to have you again to hit the ground running. Then it's always there for you to come back and continue on your learning journey, post the live portion of the workshop. So some of the other things, right? Again, you're a project professional. You want to get a little more understanding of what an agile way of working is, and definitely if you're within the PMI family, you've hopefully heard of Disciplined Agile, right? And so one of the things that we find in most courses is that it's a very, even if we're talking about a outcome flexible approach to an agile way of working like DA, one of the things with some of the training is that, yes, it can, though, be very prescriptive because we've got a case study. What we've got is we have something that is our backdrop that we're using, and it makes it very challenging for people to relate back to. So another thing that we took on to address is how to have a scenario builder, right? Something that is very dynamic based on the people that are in attendance, to give an opportunity to not go down just a path of software development work or a path of maintenance work versus project work, right? Picking one. What we have is we have an opportunity to build collaboratively the types of scenarios that we'll be using that's the best fit for the people in attendance, right? And that obviously that can vary from the people that are in attendance. Go ahead, Aldo.
And we're also including non-IT context as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just software, it's also other contexts. We have ideas from marketing, we have ideas from manufacturing, And we even have ideas from importing or exporting products and services that you can make up around that. And we provide the opportunity to actually tailor that based on what your group that you'll be working in. And we're tailoring that specifically for your context. And you can add whistles and bells on top of the core of your case study, the scenario builder. Um, and you can actually build an additional set of context around it that will help you later on when we start exploring how to use DA in there. That will help you to actually deepen your learning because it's so close to what you're used to. I've worked with, sorry, I've
No,
worked
no.
with many training courses that has just got this one case study, and sometimes you get people that says, this does not apply to me. I don't work in software. I don't know how this would pan out in my own context. I work in HR or I work in manufacturing or in marketing. Um, so having the ability to actually build your own scenario that's closest to what you know, and then using DA on top of that just helps with deepening that learning.
Yeah. So what we've what we've done is, right, we're teaching how to get the benefit out of choosing your way of working by building your own scenario that is going to be very close to the type of work that you're doing. And then we're going to be able to take you through in a much more meaningful way to be able to choose a way of working that'll be best fit for that type of work. And that's kind of the leave behind from us, the takeaway for attendees of this course is that you're actually then able to have something relatable to your work and how you can build upon that as you go back into, into doing your work. So, yep.
But the beauty of this as well is because you're in a class that's made up of multiple groups, you will have the benefit at the end of the course to see how other groups, what their context was, and how they've actually dealt with DA. So it's not just learning for your own context, it's also learning and understanding how it can apply in other contexts. So you'll be learning from your peers from other groups as well that's gone through exactly the same journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the things, as Aldo mentioned, that in addition to the building of the scenario, is the building on top, or the more creative then aspects that you want to bring in. Like, what are some of the specific challenges that you're faced with? What are some of the frustrations or impediments that you're challenging? What are some of the things that are really working for you, and you definitely don't want to leave by the wayside by adopting a new way of working? So those are some of the additional things that we're going to be bringing to the surface to, again, make this just more and more meaningful and enhance your learning experience. So, right, little bit of upfront work, right? Some on-demand training that you're able to take whatever suits your time period. Then we get into the course, cover again a little bit of those basics very quickly. We have very, very minimal time that we spend on sort of that theory part. I mean, this is about being inside of an immersive simulation to really experience how to get the value out of Disciplined Agile. So we go through, right? Pick the, form the scenarios, build the scenarios that you're going to be utilizing, get in to show you how to choose your way of working, right? How you're able to go through and explore the toolkit to be able to form that way of working that's going to be the right fit for you. Now, one of the things that, Aldo mentioned is, yes, you absolutely get the benefit of hearing how other scenarios have been solved. But here's also something that's a benefit is what happens when somebody builds a scenario pretty close to what you're doing, and you get to see what types of choices they made and also learn from that experience. So some of the things that we'll look at explore doing is possibly running some of these where it might be project decisions with DA Masterclass for people in marketing, right? So that you can have scenarios that are based around marketing, but you can explore differences based on what you're doing in marketing versus another group. But again, then you're in a situation when you're going to learn from some of your peers. So we have lots of different ways that we'll be able to deliver this course. It's very, very configurable, to meet lots of different needs.
Yep, definitely. It will also help you to see when you make choices in your life cycle. And maybe you may want to revisit your life cycle choice into your into running of your simulation. And that's really valuable because it happens in the real world. It is practical. We see many organizations starting off, or many teams starting off on a specific life cycle, and then they find out a few months in that this isn't working for us anymore. So instead of sticking with that, you have the option to go back and revisit that decision and change things around so that you can deliver better value and keep your customers happy.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up. So, yeah, weak sponsorship. So, Curtis Gilbert, right? Weak sponsorship, project contention with resources, conflicting objectives, demo value along the way, multiple personas. So, here's something else that you learn in this class. You form your way, you choose your way of working, form what's going to work for you. And you might have already creatively intertwined some of these things. And if you haven't, look out because we throw some monkey wrenches at you, right? Uh-oh, something just happened. What are you going to do? Well, you're not going to, I tell you one thing you're not going to do. You're not going to have to go out to Google and search for, I don't know, this just happened. Is there an agile practice for this? You're going to have the toolkit that is there to help you solve challenges that you weren't expecting or things that should be going a particular way and they aren't for whatever reason. So what do we do? Right? What are some of the things that we're then able to make some different choices on, or some additional choices that build upon what we already had done?
And not just different choices, but informed different choices. The DA
Inform.
toolkit, you'll be using the DA browser in session in order to make those informed decisions for your group, for one of those monkey wrenches that Joshua mentioned. And there's some really interesting things in there. Conflicting objectives could potentially be one of the monkey wrenches that we find in there. Thank you, Curtis. Um, we've come up with a whole set of monkey wrenches that we can position at the right moment while you're actually executing on your own case study. And the first one is quite jarring. It's like, how dare you? But it happens in real life.
Right.
We see that happen all the time. Your best planned projects, the plan is already outdated on the first day that you actually start executing on that plan. So, and this is what we wanted to simulate, is the
Right.
real life aspect of it. You can immerse yourself there in a safe environment and actually then learn how to make those informed decisions if you have to pivot.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. So, yeah, David's got a really, really great question here. Right, sounds quite involved. How long has the team been working on this learning experience? So, from our open enrollment, our public training, yeah, not very long, right? And so, what we're simulating is to give you exposure to things do happen on work that we're doing. Right, we do have oftentimes a framework or an approach that's kind of thrust upon us, right? And that's part of, again, the biggest benefit of DA is we're not doing that, right? We're going to teach you how to make some choices, but not all of the choices. I mean, you're going to need to go back and do some additional work, in your role at your organization. But part of what the simulation is intended to show you is now you have some context and some understanding of how a body of knowledge like the DA toolkit, and it's not just the web browser. I mean, yes, that's an integral part of what we're trying to teach to get the benefit out of it. And it prepares you for, for other DA courses and additional learning as well. But it's not just the web browser. I mean, there's a lot of guidance that's in the DA microsite. There's a lot of guidance that is in sort of the DA ecosystem. So we're trying to at least bring awareness to, for those that don't already know that, as well as how to potentially use it or how to show others to use it. That's one, especially from if you're a project professional, how should decisions be made? What are you possibly seeing, or how can you potentially provide some additional guidance and awareness to the teams that you're connected to?
Yeah, and the beauty of this, all of that information is free. You don't have to attend the course. Well, to access the information, it's on the BMI website. So when you're done with the course, you have access to that body of knowledge. It's not as if it's a closed book and it's hush hush. You can access that anytime, anywhere from the BMI website. The DA browser is free. You just need to register, and a lot of the guidance that Joshua spoke about is on the BMI website. It is there. You can go look at it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, PMI did something pretty fantastic not too long ago. You don't even have to register with an
Oh,
account any longer. All you have to do is go to the DA resources, and everybody has access with just clicking the link for the DA
oh wow.
browser tool.
Okay. Well, then I'm a bit behind, a few weeks behind.
So for those that don't know, Aldo's actually in New Zealand and I'm in the US. So Aldo's actually in the future, at least compared to my timeline. So you're not really behind, Aldo. You're actually in the future.
Okay. Well, sometimes I wonder. Anyway, okay. So in terms of the actual simulation, based on the case study that you've selected, you will actually be going into the project phases and making those decisions for your project. And it will be informed choices and decisions. And part of the exercise is where Joshua and I would come in and challenge in a good way some of the decisions that you've made based on the context. And that helps to deepen the learning as well, is to understand the reasons why you selected a specific technique or method or approach that's been offered by the DA toolkit. And that helps in the class, that helps with everybody to actually learn from that experience and understand specifically how to be able to justify those decisions that you've made. You always have sponsors, you always have stakeholders that would want to challenge you on the decisions that you've made, and this helps you to practice and be able to be ready to answer that and say, these were the trade-offs that we considered, and because of X, Y, and Z, this is the decision that we have made in this situation. So that's another valuable part of the experience, is also understanding that there could potentially be questions from the outside that you will need to field and justify.
Yeah, and the tie back into the toolkit metaphor with respect to DA. So yeah, part of what we'll challenge on is that you can make choices in such a vast toolkit that are going to be in conflict with each other, right? It's kind of like using a pair of pliers, right? Pliers work for certain things, and if you're trying to remove a nut from a bolt, right? You're trying to unscrew a nut, you might be able to use pliers once, probably going to do some damage to the nut, versus picking the appropriate wrench, right? Whether it's a box wrench or a flare wrench, or, again, something that is much more suitable for that specific task. Because that's the other thing we're trying to make sure that people glean from going through this course, is that making the selections is one thing. Making the selections that also aggregated together to form a way of working aren't introducing some challenges or some things that are just not going to work for each other. So that can happen. And again, part of the learning experience is where you get challenged on maybe some of those choices to bring some awareness to that.
And then on top of that, if you are also faced with too many choices, it feels overwhelming. So we'll also show you that you can reduce the number of choices for your context and
Yeah.
not have that feeling of being overwhelmed. I've got 300,000 choices that I can make. And that's that sometimes feel working with the DA toolkit, if you're not used to it, is like, there's too many choices. I don't know what to do. And we can show you what it looks like in the simulation about what happens if you reduce the number of choices for your context. And then it feels a lot easier. Oh, I'll make this choice, etc. But knowing that this is not the only ones, you always can fall back onto the full toolkit to go and add over time additional choices to your tailored, localized framework.
Yeah. So there you have it. We're getting pretty close. We target about 20 minutes for these. For Curtis and David, thank you for participating with all the great questions and comments that you put in. If anybody watching this live now, or again, you're watching this on replay, if you have any questions, definitely drop them on the thread that we've got going on LinkedIn, or just reach out to us. We'll do our best to provide some clarity or some additional context. And Aldo, any parting words from you?
Thank you, Joshua, for the opportunity. And it's quite, even as an instructor, taking a team or a group of teams through this training course, it's always an enriching experience. I always find something to learn from the groups that you've taken through there. So I really enjoy running these classes and learning from others as well. So come teach me something as well. Joshua, yourself as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Aldo. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you on the next All Things Disciplined Agile episodes.